3.1 Contributions of M.S. Swaminathan. Why in the news? Mankombu Sambasivan Swaminathan, popularly known as M.S. Swaminathan, the legendary agricultural scientist, passed away recently. About M.S. Swaminathan. A plant geneticist, he is regarded as the father and key architect of India's Green Revolution, and is also often referred to as the farmer scientist. He was the recipient of the First World Food Prize in 1987 for his leadership in India's Green Revolution. He is also a recipient of Padma Vibhushan, the Ramon Magsaysay Award, and several other national and international recognitions. Scientific contributions of M.S. Swaminathan. Genetic research. He worked on breeding programs to develop crop varieties that were not only high-yielding but also resistant to pests and diseases. His efforts led to the creation of several new crop varieties that were better suited to the Indian climate and agricultural conditions. Rice varieties. At the Central Rice Research Institute, CRI, Cuttack, Swaminathan worked in the Indica japonica rice hybridization program to develop fertilizer-responsive, high-yielding and short-stature varieties of rice to replace locally available, tall and low-yielding varieties. The work resulted in varieties like ADT27 and Rasu. Varieties developed under this project directly contributed to the Green Revolution in India. Under his guidance, the scientists genetically engineered the salinity tolerance genes of a mangrove species, Avicennia marina, into the cultivated rice plant. He initiated a rice breeding program to transfer the non-lodging plant type to basmati strains, leading to release of Pusa basmati. Wheat varieties. He then shifted his focus to wheat from rice. During that time, all local wheat varieties were tall, and these lodged, i.e. fell flat on the ground, when their earheads were full of heavy grains. None of the varieties of the cultivated wheat had the genes for dwarfing the height of the plants without reducing yield. New Mexican wheat dwarf variety containing Norrin genes were developed by Norman Borlaug, an American agronomist, and scientists at the International Rice Research Institute. He identified the potential of Mexican wheat dwarfs, which are dwarf, resistant to diseases, and also high-yielding. With help of Borlaug and additional research on these wheat varieties, he developed Sinalica and Kalyon-Sona varieties. Potato hybrid. He developed a frost-resistant potato variety called Alaska Frostless. Participatory breeding. He also fostered participatory breeding in which farmers are assisted to develop new locally adapted varieties. Contribution in economic ecology. He has been described by the United Nations Environment Programme as the father of economic ecology because of his leadership of the Evergreen Revolution movement in agriculture. Evergreen Revolution. He concentrated his efforts on an evergreen revolution, which he defined as improvement of productivity in perpetuity without ecological harm. 40 www.visioneers.nwa.visioneers.in Copyright symbol Vision IAS. Approach. It is based on appropriate blend of different approaches such as organic farming, green agriculture, eco-agriculture, and agriculture based on effective microorganisms. He advocated for a do ecology approach to ensure that ecologically sustainable farming technologies become available. He proposed idea of 4CS conservation, cultivation, consumption, and commercialization for reconciling conservation and development in the sphere of farming activities. Technological adoption. He advocated for harnessing the best in frontier technologies and blending them with our rich heritage of ecological prudence. He promoted sustainable agriculture and rural development using innovative paradigms such as eco-technology based biovillages and modern information and communication-based village knowledge centers, VKCs. Policy and institutional contributions of M.S. Swaminathan and its relevance till today. National Commission on Farmers, NCF, was formed under the chairmanship of Swaminathan. One of its major recommendations is that minimum support price, MSP, should be at least 50% more than the weighted average cost of production. It also recommended formation of VKCs, conservation farming, soil testing laboratories, expansion of credit system, and public distribution system. M.S. Swaminathan Research Foundation, MSSIF, he used the funds he received from World Food Prize to open a research center, MSSIF, in Chennai, India, in 1988. Protection of plant varieties. He played a pivotal role in developing the Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Right Act 2001 as India's response to its obligation to provide sui generis protection to plant varieties under TRIPS. Food security. He suggested 2 steps for integrating nutrition in farming. A genetic garden of biofortified plants to introduce farmers to plants which can provide them with the needed micronutrients and proteins. Community hunger fighters, well versed with the malnutrition problems of the area, as well as the methods to overcome them. Disaster management. He advocated for adoption of concepts of drought code, flood code, and good weather code, indicating the proactive measures that need to be taken. Research institutions. He helped in establishment of several institutions which include International Crop Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics, ICRISAT, at Patancheru, near Hyderabad. International Board for Plant Genetic Resources, IBPGR, in Rome, now known as Biodiversity International. International Council for Research on Agroforestry, ICRAF, in Nairobi. International Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology, ICGEB, in New Delhi. 5-year plans. He played a key role in shaping the 6th 5-year plan, 1980 to 1985, where, for the first time, he introduced 2 new chapters, one on women and development, and another on environment and development. UN Millennium Project. He co-chaired the UN Millennium Project, which in early 2005 developed clear targets and a practical plan for reducing poverty, hunger, disease, illiteracy, environmental degradation, and discrimination against women, to be achieved over the following decade. Conclusion. M.S. Swaminathan championed the cause of farmers, ensuring that the fruits of scientific innovation reach the roots of our agricultural expanse, fostering growth, sustainability, sustainability, and prosperity for generations to come. His ideas, research, and vision for Indian agriculture still guides the policymakers to create a resilient, self-sufficient, and scientific agriculture ecosystem. 3.2 Indian Council of Agricultural Research, ICAR. Why in the news? Recently, International Research Conference on From Research to Impact, Towards Just and Resilient Agri-Food Systems, hosted by the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, ICAR, and Consultative Group on International Agricultural Research, CGIAR, Gender Impact Platform, was inaugurated. 41 WW. Role of ICAR towards better and resilient agri-food systems. Crop varieties played a pioneering role in ushering green revolution through developing new high-yielding varieties of different crops. Rice varieties like Jaya, first rice variety released in India, Swarna, Pusa Basmati 1121, world's longest basmati rice. Wheat varieties like HD 2967, DBW 187, HD 3086, etc. Fruit varieties like Amrapali, pomegranate bagua, etc. Seed programs. ICAR deposited seeds in the Svalbard Global Seed Vault as safety duplicates. Genomics helped establish the National Gene Bank in New Delhi, second largest gene bank in the world, having more than 450,000 indigenous and exotic accessions of crop species, and a large cryopreservation bank. ICAR partnered in the global genome sequencing of rice, wheat, tomato and potato and independently sequenced the genome of pigeon pea, jute, mango and fishes. Integrated farming, promotion of integrated farming system with its added advantage of waste recycling, climate. Resilience and risk minimization. Developed models of agroforestry to promote agri-horti, agri-silvi and silvipastoral systems for raising farmers' income. Improving productivity of indigenous breeds of cattle through field progeny testing and selection. Indigenous breeds include Sahiwal cow, Tharparkar bull, Gir cattle, Banner buffalo and Cankridge cow. Improved poultry farming with increasing productivity of desi birds such as Karinaubik, Kardiknath, and Kaleshwar, etc. Health. Vaccines and diagnostics developed by ICAR contributed to improved health management and enhanced livestock productivity. Animal diseases namely rinderpest, contagious bovine pleuropneumonia, African horse sickness, and Durin eradicated from the country. Climate smart farming. It is being promoted through rainwater harvesting, community ponds, climate resilient varieties such as Rati ML365, Pigeon Pea BRG1, BRG2 and BRG5, and hydroponic cropping. Biotechnology solutions. ICAR undertook crop biofortification to tackle malnutrition. Biofortified crops include Solapur Lal, first biofortified pomegranate variety, groundnut Ganar 4 and 5, Pusa 00 mustard 31, first canola quality Indian mustard variety, etc. Developed Pusa decomposer for in situ and ex situ crop residue decomposition to mitigate residue burning problems. India developed first cloned buffalo in the world and Pratham, the world's first in vitro fertilized buffalo calf. Blue Revolution promoted cage culture, a low-volume high-density fish farming system which raised per unit productivity. ICAR developed Ecosystem Health Index, EHI, to monitor coastal ecosystem, identified biofence to mitigate effects of ocean pollution, and intensified identification of invasive alien species. ICAR is working towards development of cold water fisheries sector in all the Himalayan states. Agricultural mechanization, developed technologies in agricultural engineering including millet mill, drone remote sensing, mulch laying machine, etc. 42 www.visioneers. Consultative Group on International Agricultural Research, CGIAR, established in 1971. It is a strategic partnership of donors that support 15 international research centers, working in collaboration with government, civil society organizations and private businesses. CGIAR is a global research partnership for a food-secure future dedicated to transforming food, land, and water systems in a climate crisis. It focuses on 5 impact areas, see image. 3.3 National Turmeric Board. Why in the news? Government of India has notified establishment of a National Turmeric Board in the state of Telangana. About National Turmeric Board. Key objectives of the board: create demand in domestic and international markets through promoting new product and value addition. Create and improve infrastructure and logistics for exports of turmeric and turmeric products. Ensure quality and safety standards across the supply chain of turmeric. Document the traditional knowledge related to use of turmeric and its applications. Encourage studies, clinical trials and research on medicinal, health and wellness enhancing properties of turmeric. The board is to consist of a chairperson, selected by the central government, 4 members to represent the Ministries of Commerce, Agriculture, Ayush, and Pharmaceuticals, 8 other members related to turmeric value chain. The proposed board is to work under the aegis of Ministry of Commerce. Turmeric, Kirkimalonga, in India. India is the largest producer, consumer and exporter of turmeric in the world. Key features. Tropical plant belonging to the ginger family, Zingiberaceae. Temperature range, 20 to 35 degrees Celsius. Rainfall, 1,500 millimeters, or more. Soil, well-drained red loamy soil. Duration, rhizomes are harvested 9 to 10 months after planting. It contains a natural active ingredient called curcumin, which gives the turmeric its color and has antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. Cultivation, turmeric is cultivated in an area of 3.24 lakh ha in India with a production of 11.61 lakh tons, which amounts to over 75% of global turmeric production. More than 30 varieties of turmeric are grown in India, and the largest turmeric producing states are Maharashtra, Telangana, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Bangladesh, UAE, USA and Malaysia are the main export markets of Indian turmeric, whose value is expected to reach $1 billion by 2030. Conclusion: the establishment of a separate board not only adheres to the decade-long demand of the turmeric farmers in India, but also has opened the avenues for India to get a strong hold of the turmeric exports in the international market. 43 3.4 Nobel Prizes 2023. Why in the news? Nobel Prizes for 2023 were announced recently. About Nobel Prize. The Nobel Prize is an international award administered by the Nobel Foundation in Stockholm, Sweden, and based on the last will of Alfred Nobel in 1895. Alfred Nobel, a Swedish inventor and entrepreneur, is popularly known for inventing dynamite, blasting cap, and smokeless gunpowder. Categories. Instituted in 1901, the prize is awarded annually from the bulk of fortune left by Alfred Nobel in 5 categories: physics, chemistry, physiology or medicine, literature, and peace conferred to people for the greatest benefit to humankind in preceding year. The 6th category, the Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences, was instituted in 1968 by the Royal Bank of Sweden and was first awarded in 1969. What do the winners receive? A Nobel diploma, each of which is a unique work of art. A Nobel medal, a cash prize of 10 million Swedish krona. They have to deliver a lecture to receive the money. Who awards the prizes? The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences awards the Nobel Prize in Physics, Chemistry and Economics. The Nobel Prize in Literature is awarded by the Swedish Academy, Stockholm, Sweden. The Nobel Assembly at Karolinska Institute, Stockholm, Sweden awards the Nobel Prize in Medicine, Physiology. The Norwegian Nobel Committee is responsible for the selection of eligible candidates and the choice of the Nobel Peace Prize laureates. Prize winners are called laureates, to signify the laurel wreath given to victors of contests in ancient Greece. More than one, but no more than 3, people can win each prize. The Nobel statutes prohibit the judges from discussing their deliberations for 50 years. Kindly note that Nobel Prize in Chemistry, physics and medicine have been covered under Science and Technology section. Nobel Prize in Literature and Nobel Peace Prize are covered under Culture and Social Issues sections respectively. 3.4.1 Nobel Prize in Economics, Women in Labor Force. Why in the news? The Sveriges Riksbank Prize in Economic Sciences in memory of Alfred Nobel 2023 has been awarded to Claudia Golden for advancing understanding of women's labor market outcomes. 44 www.visioneers.nw. More on news. Over the past century, the proportion of women in paid work has tripled in many high-income countries. This is one of the biggest societal and economic changes in the labor market in modern times, but significant gender differences remain. Claudia Golden's research has given us new and often surprising insights into women's historical and contemporary roles in the labor market. Status of gender differences. Global status. Globally, around 50% women are in paid employment, while the equivalent figure for men is 80%. In South Asia, only around 25% of women participate in labor market. Status in India. In India, the labor force participation rate among females is 24% and among males is 73.6% for 2022. Vulnerable employment, forms of self-employment associated with lower labor income and low job security, among women is 77.3% and among men is 72.9% in India for 2021. U-shaped relationship. There is a positive U-shaped relationship between development, proxied by GDP per capita, and female labor force participation. Women's labor force participation is high for the poorest countries, higher share of agriculture, lower for middle-income countries, and then rises again among high-income countries. Earnings gap. When women work, they usually earn less. In India, the gender earnings gap is most skewed amongst self-employed workers. In India, the earnings gap has reduced, and women earn 76% of what men did in 2017, compared to 70% in 2004. Since then, the gap has remained constant till 2021 to 22. Opportunities. Women are less likely to work in formal employment and have fewer opportunities for business expansion or career progression. Factors influencing female labor force participation. U-shaped curve. Previously, it was concluded that there was a clear positive association between economic growth and the number of women in paid employment. Golden's U-curve demonstrated that there is no historically consistent association between women's participation in the labor market and economic growth. Social norms, legislation or customs known as marriage bars often prevented married women from continuing their employment despite increased demand for labor. Also, women often left the workforce for an extended period after marriage. This influenced their decisions regarding education choices, which determined job opportunities they could have at a later stage in life. Technological innovations. Innovation of the contraceptive pill resulted in women delaying marriage and childbirth, thus increasing their education and career prospects. However, this did not mean that the earnings gap between women and men completely disappeared, though it has become significantly smaller since the 1970s. 45 www. Monthly pay system. Despite economic growth, increasing education levels among women, and a doubling in the proportion of women working for pay, the earnings gap essentially stayed the same between 1930 and 1980. This was partially due to abandoning of piecework contracts, paid in relation to their productivity, and adoption of modern pay systems, monthly wages. Parenthood effect. Women taking greater responsibility than men for childcare, care economy, makes their career progression and earnings increases more difficult. Many sectors of contemporary labor markets expect employees to be constantly available and flexible in the face of employers' demands, which is difficult after childbirth. Way forward, reducing gender differences in the workforce. Assessment. Policymakers who want to affect these differences must first understand why they exist. Collective action. Collective, coordinated and bold action by private and public sector leaders will be instrumental in accelerating progress towards gender parity. Investments in providing women equal access to information, education, and healthcare reaps large dividend in terms of gender parity. Brazil introduced the Emergency Aid Cash Transfer Program early in the pandemic, which provided double the benefits to women-led households, decreasing poverty rate. Congenial environment, reforms to taxation, public spending, financial infrastructure, and regulations, as well as labor markets that removes institutional barriers. In Norway, the expansion of universal childcare increased the likelihood of mothers' employment by 32 percentage points. Tackling biases and social norms, gender-based discrimination in social institutions costs the world economy $6 trillion according to OECD. Such costs can be reduced through social and legal actions such as curbing underage marriage, criminalizing domestic violence, and increasing the number of elected female officials. Access to microfinance. An International Growth Center, IGC, project in India found that greater access to microfinance loans led to a significant increase in female labor force participation, with the effect driven by self-employment and not by salaried jobs. 3.5 News in Shorts. 3.5.1 Periodic Labor Force Survey, PLFS, Report 2022 to 2023. Launched by National Sample Survey Organization, NSSO, in 2017, the key objective of PLFS is to estimate the key employment and unemployment indicators, viz. LFPR, WPR, UR, annually, in the short time interval of 3 months for the urban areas only in current weekly status, CWS, and in both usual status, and CWS in both rural and urban areas annually. Key indicators used in PLFS. Labor force participation rate, LFPR percentage of persons in the labor force, i.e. working or seeking or available for work, in the population. Worker population ratio, WPR percentage of employed persons in the population. Unemployment rate, UR percentage of persons unemployed among the persons in the labor force. Activity status. It is determined on the basis of the activities pursued by the person during the specified reference period preceding the date of survey. Usual status. Reference period is 365 days. Current weekly status. CWS reference period is 7 days. Measures taken for reducing gender gap in India. Code on Social Security 2020. Enhancement in paid maternity leave to 26 weeks. Mandatory creche facility in the establishments having 50 or more employees. Permitting women workers in the night shifts with adequate safety measures, etc. Code on Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions, OSH, 2020, employment of women in the above-ground mines including open-cast workings, and in below-ground working in technical, supervisory, and managerial work where continuous presence may not be required. Code on Wages 2019, no discrimination in an establishment among employees on the ground of gender. Training and skill development, training to women through a network of women industrial training institutes, national vocational training institutes, and regional vocational training institutes. 46 www.visioneers.nwa.visioneers.in Copyright symbol Vision IAS. 3.5.2 Bond yield. Recently, Reserve Bank of India, RBI, decision for open market operation, OMO, sale of government securities, GSEC, triggered a spike in bond yields to their highest level in FY 2023-24. RBI uses OMOs in order to adjust the rupee liquidity conditions in the market on a durable basis. A bond is a debt instrument in which an investor loans money to an entity, typically corporate or government, which borrows the funds for a defined period of time at a variable or fixed interest rate. Bonds are used by companies, municipalities, states, and sovereign governments to raise money to finance a variety of projects and activities. A GSEC is a tradable instrument issued by the central government or the state governments. It acknowledges the government's debt obligation. Such securities are short-term, usually called treasury bills, with original maturities of less than 1 year, or long-term, usually called government bonds, or dated securities, with original maturity of 1 year or more. A bond's yield is the return an investor expects to receive each year over its term to maturity. For the investor, the bond yield is a summary of the overall return that accounts for the remaining interest payments and principal they will receive, relative to the price of the bond. The yield is also commonly referred to as an interest rate, or the cost of borrowing to an issuer. If market interest rate levels rise, the price of a bond falls. Conversely, if interest rates or market yields decline, the price of the bond rises. The yield of a bond is inversely related to its price. When the price of a bond falls, yields rise. 3.5.3 Trade and Development Report 2023. United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, released Trade and Development Report 2023. Key findings of the report. The report discusses the current state of the global economy and highlights several challenges. Global economic outlook. The world economic growth is projected to be 2.4% in 2023. The entire global economy, except East and Central Asia, has slowed since 2022. Worrying trends are poorer nations' indebtedness, slower growth in major regions, and inadequate multilateral response. India's economic projections. India's economic growth is forecasted to be 6.6% in 2023 and 6.2% in 2024. In India, the external sector alongside the private and government sectors has contributed to domestic growth. Concerns highlighted for India are the unemployment rate of 8.5% in June 2023 and rising inequality. Key recommendations. Financial sustainability. Central banks should strengthen international coordination with a focus on long-term financial sustainability for the private and public sectors. Social protection. Increase real wages and strengthen comprehensive social protection programs. Energy transition agreements. Agreements within the G20, the WTO, the IMF, and the World Bank should be made to facilitate the energy transition, technology transfer, and reliable access to finance for climate adaptation. 47 www.visioneers.nwa.visioneers.in Trade regulation. Internationally, a systemic approach to regulating commodity and food trading needs to be developed. O. Debt servicing and financial architecture reforms. Reforms are needed in the rules and practices of the global financial architecture to address the crushing burden of debt servicing. 3.5.4 Prompt Corrective Action PCA Framework. RBI to extend PCA supervisory norms to governed NBFCs from October 2024. The objective of the PCA framework is to enable supervisory intervention at the appropriate time and requires the supervised entities to initiate and implement remedial measures in a timely manner so as to restore their financial health. The PCA framework for non-banking financial companies, NBFCs, was introduced on December 14, 2021. The framework has since been reviewed and it has been decided to extend the same to government NBFCs, except those in base layer, with effect from October 1, 2024, based on the audited financials of the NBFC as on March 31, 2024, or thereafter. O. The base layer is categorized as those non-deposit taking NBFCs, below the asset size of 1,000 Indian rupees. O. The other three layers are the middle layer, upper layer, and top layer. O. Some of the major government NBFCs include PFC, REC, IRFC, and IFCI. PCA framework was introduced for NBFCs, as these lenders have grown in size and become systemically important due to interconnectedness with other segments of the financial system. 3.5.5 Reserve Bank of India, Treatment of Willful Defaulters and Large Defaulters, Directions, 2023 released. With these directions, RBI has expanded scope for regulated entities that can classify borrowers as willful defaulters, broadened definition of willful default, and refined identification process. Key highlights of directions. Applicability all regulated entities, including banks, NBFCs, cooperative banks, regional rural banks, local area banks, and all India Financial Institution, AIFI, including NABARD, SIDBI, Exim Bank, NHB and NABFID. Definition: a willful defaulter is a borrower, or a guarantor, who has defaulted without being constrained to do, and the outstanding amount is 25 rupees lakh and above. A large defaulter is one whose amount in default is 1 rupee crore and above. Review and finalization on willful default. Within 6 months of an account being classified as a non-performing asset, NPA. Earlier, there was no specific timeline. Identification process. Identification committee, willful defaulter classification, after examining evidence from an identification committee, which will then issue a show cause notice. Review committee, considers the proposal of the identification committee for classification as a willful defaulter. Other provisions: no additional credit facility can be granted to a willful defaulter, and it remains in effect for up to 1 year after removal from list of willful defaulters. 48 www.visioneers.nwa.visioneers. Lender will be able to proceed against guarantor even without exhausting the remedies against principal debtor. 3.5.6 Card on File Tokenization COFT. RBI has introduced new channels for COFT. The tokenization process is used to replace card details by a unique token or code. It allows secure online purchases without exposing sensitive details like card number, card verification value, CVV, etc. It has been implemented since 2022 and at present, a COFT token can only be created through merchant's application or web page. It is now proposed to introduce COFT token directly at the issuer bank level. The new step aims to eliminate the duplication of tokenization process at each app along with increased transaction security, resulting in reduced card data-related frauds. 3.5.7 52nd Goods and Services Tax Council, GST, Council meeting held. Key recommendation: district mineral foundations, trusts are governmental authorities and eligible for the same exemptions from GST. Reduction of GST rate from 28% to 5% on molasses. It will facilitate faster payments to sugarcane farmers from sugar mills. Keep extra neutral alcohol, ENA, used for manufacture of alcoholic liquor for human consumption outside GST. ENA is highly concentrated alcohol and key ingredient for pharmaceuticals, perfumes, toiletries, etc. Qualification of members of GSTAT. Alignment of provisions of the CGST Act, 2017 with Tribunal Reforms Act, 2021 to ensure minimum age of president and member should be 50 years and their tenure should be up to age of 70 years and 67 years respectively. About GST Council, it is a constitutional body under Article 279A, 101 Constitution Amendment Act, 2016. Chairperson, Union Finance Minister members, Union Minister of State, in charge of Revenue Minister in charge of Finance, or Taxation, or any other minister nominated by each state government. Function, making recommendations on issues related to implementation of GST decision-making through voting. Decision requires a 3/4 majority of members present and voting. Centre's share is 33% of votes cast. About GST Appellate Tribunals, GSTAT. GSTAT is a statutory body under the Central GST Act, 2017. It is the forum of second appeal in GST laws and the first common forum of dispute resolution between centre and states. It is mandated to hear appeals against orders passed by appellate authority or revisional authority. 3.5.8 National Investment and Infrastructure Fund, NIIF. NIIF has entered into a collaboration with Japan Bank for International Cooperation, JBIC, to unveil a $600 million India-Japan fund. The fund will have JBIC and Government of India as anchor investors. About NIIF. Anchored by the Government of India, it is a collaborative investment platform for international and Indian investors. 3 funds have been established by the government under the NIIF platform: Master Fund, Fund of Funds and Strategic Opportunities Fund. The objective of NIIF is to invest largely in equity and equity-linked instruments. 3.5.9 UDAI issued Bima Vahak Guidelines, BHG. The guidelines aim to establish women-centric distribution channel that focuses on enhancing insurance inclusion and awareness in every village. It also aims to improve the accessibility and availability of insurance in every nook and corner of the country. The scope of work of Bima Vahaks, besides creating awareness of insurance in villages, is likely to range from filling proposal forms, facilitating KYC process for customers, issuance of insurance policies, etc. It is a part of IRDAI's strategy to achieve its insurance for all goal. 49 www.visioneers.nwa.vid. The 3rd of May, 10. Critical and strategic minerals. Union Cabinet approved royalty rates for mining 3 critical and strategic minerals: lithium, niobium, and rare earth elements. Critical minerals are those minerals that are essential for economic development and national security, judged by 2 parameters: economic importance and supply risk. Such royalty rate approval will enable central government to auction blocks for these critical minerals for the first time in the country. O mineral royalty is economic rent due to the sovereign owner, government, in exchange for the right to extract mineral substances. O Second Schedule of Mines and Minerals, Development and Regulation, Act, MMDIA, 1957 deals with the royalty rates of minerals. If not specified, the royalty rate for minerals is 12% of the average sale price, ASP. Now, approved royalty rates for lithium, niobium, and REE are 3%, and 1%, respectively. Presently, India's mineral royalty rates are among the highest in the world, thus impacting the competitiveness of sector and putting the economic burden on mining companies. Significance: O aligning rates with global practices will boost mining sector investment. O lower royalty rates would encourage future mineral exploration in India. O assist in reducing import dependency, advancing self-reliance efforts, and minimizing supply chain disruptions. The 3rd of May, 11. India Smart Cities Awards Contest, ISCAC, 2022. ISAC is organized under Smart Cities Mission by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. ISAC recognizes and rewards cities, projects, and innovative ideas that are promoting sustainable development across 100 smart cities and stimulating inclusive, equitable, healthy, and collaborative cities. OISAC has witnessed 3 editions in 2018, 2019, and 2020. Top 3 Smart City, Indore, Surat and Agra. Top 3 in state, Madhya Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan. Top UT, Chandigarh. The 3rd of May, 12. Goa Roadmap for Tourism. G20's Delhi Declaration underlined the significance of Goa Roadmap for tourism as a vehicle to achieve SDGs. OID identifies 5 priority areas in tourism: green tourism, digitalization, skills, tourism MSMEs, and destination management. Delhi Declaration also noted the launch of Travel for Life initiative, which nudges tourists and tourist businesses to take simple actions having tremendous significance for environment protection and climate action. Further, Ministry of Tourism and UN World Tourism Organization has launched G20 Tourism, an SDG dashboard, which will serve as a global repository, showcasing best practices and case studies of sustainable tourism practices and policies from G20 nations. The 3rd of May, 13. Scheme for Remission of Duties and Taxes on Exported Products, RoDTEP. Ministry of Commerce and Industry announced extension of RoDTEP support till the 30th of June, 2024. About scheme. O introduced as a duty remission scheme on exports. O provides a mechanism for reimbursement of taxes, duties, and levies, which are currently not being refunded under any other mechanism. O basis. Globally accepted principle that taxes and duties should not be exported, and taxes and levies borne on exported products should be either exempted or remitted to exporters. O it is WTO compatible and is being implemented in an end-to-end IT environment. The 3rd of May, 14. Automatic status holder certificates. Ministry of Commerce and Industry unveils system-based automatic status holder certificates under Foreign Trade Policy 2023. 50 www. Now certificate will be provided by the IT system based on available Directorate General of Commercial Intelligence and Statistics merchandise, export electronic data, and other risk parameters. O status holders are business leaders who have excelled in international trade and have successfully contributed to the country's foreign trade. The 3rd of May, 15. Project Mariana. Project Mariana was developed jointly by 3 BIS Innovation Hub Centers, the Swiss, Singapore, and Eurosystem Hub Centers, together with Bank of France, Monetary Authority of Singapore, and Swiss National Bank. The project tested the cross-border trading and settlement of wholesale central bank digital currencies, WCBDCs, between financial institutions, using new decentralized finance, DeFi technology concepts on a public blockchain. O wholesale CBDC refers to the settlement of interbank transfers and related wholesale transactions in central bank reserves. The 3rd of May, 16. Global Innovation Index, GII, 2023. India maintains 40th rank in the Global Innovation Index, GII, 2023, released by World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO. The GII is a reliable tool for governments across the world to assess the innovation-led social and economic changes in their respective countries. O it is co-published annually by Cornell University, INSEAD Business School, and WIPO. O criteria to measure innovation covers institutions, human capital and research, infrastructure, credit, investment, linkages, creation, absorption and diffusion of knowledge, and creative outputs. Key findings. O for a 13th consecutive year, Switzerland ranks first in the GII. O strong technological progress and technology adoption like electric vehicle and automation. O status of innovation in India. India leads the lower middle income group and is stable. India continues as record holders by being innovation overperformers for a 13th consecutive year. The ascent of India in terms of publication output, ranking 4th in 2022, overtaking the UK 5th and Germany 3rd. India has 4 technology clusters among the top 100 clusters: Bengaluru, Delhi, Chennai, and Mumbai. The 3rd of May, 17. Multilateral Development Banks, MDBS. G20 expert group released a report titled Bigger, Bolder, Better Multilateral Development Banks, MDBs. The report was presented at the 4th G20 Finance Ministers and Central Bank Governors meeting in Marrakesh. The independent expert group submitted Volume 2 of a series of reports. This report focuses on reforms of MDBs on the theme of Bigger, Bolder, Better MDBs. 51 www. O earlier submitted Volume 1, focused on tripling the annual lending levels of MDBs to $390 billion by 2030. MDBs are a financial institution established by multiple member countries and governed by international law. Example, Bretton Woods institutions, Asian Development Bank, etc. Recommendations: O better MDBs. Address the largest external financing gaps in low and middle income countries. Focus on non-concessional lending in climate action. Scaling up national transformations by integrating with regional programs. O bigger MDBs. Catalyze private finance by shifting culture from risk avoidance to informed risk-taking. More donor pledges for the International Development Association. Establish a global challenges funding mechanism, GCFM, for investors seeking financial return while also supporting SDGs. O bolder MDBs. Adopt cascade principle. Refers to public sector banks refraining from financing what can be done by the private sector. Empowering the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, MIGA. The 3rd of May, 18, Emerging Market Bond Index, MBI. JP Morgan to add Indian government bonds to its benchmark EMBI from June 2024. EMBI is a benchmark index for measuring total return performance of international government and corporate bonds that meet specific liquidity and structural requirements. Inclusion in EMBI could potentially O lower the country's sovereign borrowing costs. O help finance the current account deficit. O free up liquidity for domestic financiers to deploy in more productive assets. O increase demand for the rupee and support its value. 52 www.vision 4. Security. 4.1 Separatism.